All right. So are you ready to rock out? This is my tool. This is a little geometric solid that I made. And you can see on a bunch of the planes, there are sets of parallel lines, such that when I set it on the ground, these parallel lines are pointing down. So see how those are pointing down, those are pointing down, sort of straight down. And this is a very interesting and informative little shape. So the reason that I think this is useful is take a look at any one of these planes and you see that you've got lines that are pointing down. But if you, that is when I turn that plane towards you. So notice these lines go straight up and down on your screen when that's pointing towards you. But notice that these ones off on the sides don't. All right, so if I was a water drop on here and I started going down, I would be following these lines. So straight down, gravity on each one of these is going like this. So when that's pointed towards you, you can see that if you're the water drop, you'd be going like that. If you were a water drop over here, you would be going at an apparent angle like this, which really would be straight down. Does that make sense? So if I have little lines that are pointing straight down and it's on a different plane, those will appear to be different angles if you were to take a photograph of this. Look also, the more extreme version of it is obviously a drop that was rolling down here on this side. It would be going straight down, but if you were to draw that line of the direction that it went to go straight down, instead of that being a straight up and down line, you'd be seeing that as, see those little lines on the side, right? As little lines going like that. So what I've got is all these different planes, and each plane down is a different direction of pencil stroke. Let me say that again. On each of these planes, if you were a little water drop rolling down the side of it, from your drawing position over there, you would see this one coming down like this. You would see one that's going here, going straight down the middle of your page. This idea ends up being really useful for drawing rocks. So let's take a look at a few of these rocks that came in these photographs. Let's take a look at, so here's rocks. I'll show you our 3 rocks. So here's a rock, here's a rock. Those are our 3 rocks. And so you see these rocks have planes. Each one of these slopes here, that's a plane. Right, I'm going to refer to this as a plane, this is a plane, this surface going up here is a plane, this surface over here is a plane. As you can plainly see. So plane on the top drops down a little shelf, comes over. Plane here, plane here, plane here. In places where it's all kind of banged up, there's like so many little planes that I might sort of generalize this to kind of one big plane in here. But that's probably just a whole bunch of little micro surfaces. But some other places you look at a rock and kind of like, oh, where your planes are plainly visible. Let's play with how I might approach drawing a rock like this. I'm going to start with a light non-photo blue pencil drawing. Let's see if this shows up on the, nope, that doesn't show up on the screen. I'm going to have to use a darker purple one. Yes, all right. So what I do is I first start with just kind of a general shape. I'm going to have a rock that's going to be about yay big. And so I'm looking at it, it's a little bit, I'm going to make it a little bit deeper than that. Okay. It's not a full square. but it's a little bit wider side to side. And for part of that, I'm looking at a top surface up here. There's another surface that is over here on this side. There is another surface here. There's a surface over here on the side. So you see what I'm doing? So I'm just kind of circling and blocking out the general locations of these planes and surfaces. And the angles on these, the shapes of these is going to get progressively more refined. But right now, I just want to notice that there's a big kind of square area in the middle of this. There's an L-shaped area here. There's a triangle area over here. There's another little area perched on top of that. So maybe my triangle area comes over here more, this square here, and maybe I want to make that more of an L. So it's just roughly, loosely blocking in. Here's a rock with some planes. And now a thing I'm going to do is also look at negative shapes. So look at not the shape of the rock, but look at the shape of the gravel back here. And notice that this is an angle like that. See that angle right there? It's easier to see the angle if you're not looking at the rock and you're just looking at the gravel behind it. And so I'm going to then carve that in on my piece of paper. So I'm going to put in an angle over here. There's an angle on this side. Maybe it's not as steep as that. And then that comes over to something that's more straight. There's a little bit of a dip down in it. All right. And that cruises across there. Maybe there's a little broken off corner here. We're going to come down here and L over. There is a part here. Let's look at a little bit at the shape of the top of this. It seems to me that there's a part that's sticking out and then it drops in. So it drops, looks like we're kind of sticking out here, and then we're kind of dropping in to this angle here that is going up, not straight across, but maybe more up at an angle like that. And then that is going to cut over there. So I'm trying to block in what some of these planes might be. Here coming down. There's, in this lower area, there seems to be kind of a broken ceiling that is coming down at an angle with sort of chunks in it. And then there's a back wall that is coming down straighter in that. This edge tucks up and hides behind some of the plants there, so I can't really see what they're doing. If I don't get this exactly right, it's still going to end up looking like a rock. And so I don't have to get wrapped around the axle about like in here, there's this little chip, and then that comes over here to this other little chip here. I can if I want to, but if for most of the sketching that I do, that kind of level of hyper detail won't serve me too well. All right, and then there's this lovely, I love this part. See this little step down here? We come across the top and you step down and then over to this. And that comes over here and you see that little shelf there. Ooh, I really, really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that as a little thing kind of coming across. And somewhere in there.
Would you mind scooting your page slightly?
Oh, sorry. It's hiding behind the other rock. Oh.
Thank you.
Great. Now, let's draw in some of the lines on this, these edges. I'm now going to sort of switch tools and just sort of bust out a ballpoint pen here. So this is a refillable ballpoint pen. It takes Parker refills. So I can take a little refill and stick that in there. And now I've broken it. Let's try that again. Let's try that. Maybe we won't be using this pen.
Jack, we're getting a request if you could possibly move the light a little bit. I guess that the shadows of your hands make it difficult to see the lines.
Oh, yeah, good call. Let me turn off the light in here. There still may be a light from, yeah, that now there's more. There's not a light from the electric lights.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Is that better? All right, so one moment to try to, good, I got this to work. We're back with a ballpoint pen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just give you a suggestion of detail. I can't put in all the detail, but I can put in a suggestion of it. There's a few kinds of different edges in here that I want to handle though. One is the exterior edge. So that means this line that is going around here, that edge, I can handle one way because it's just, that's going to be like, how do you handle that? Well, it's a line, right? I draw a line. The line, by the way, will be much more interesting though if I use a variable line. So this is a hard line. A variable line is on the on and off line, some places pressing harder, some places pressing really lightly. It makes for a drawing that's much more lively. But so for a lot of this line around the outside edge, I'm just going to get myself a line that sometimes is popping in more. But it'll be much more interesting if I make that a variable line. Here's a little bit of a dip. And at some points in that, put in just like a little accent dot. So sometimes like, see like in there, like in that little point there, like kind of popping that little spot in. That's just making that line a little bit more interesting. And it doesn't have to be exactly what is up there, but roughly you're kind of getting like, oh, there's the outside edge of a rock. Right. So that's the rock. And now the hard place. So between the rock and the hard place is how do you handle these edges that are coming towards you here, right? So I want this, if I just draw this edge in here, it's going to feel like this is carved just like a block that is, there's a little bit of a rounded edge here, right? And I want to suggest that. And the way that I'm going to suggest it is, I don't have a good term for it yet. Or maybe I called this something when I worked in my book on nature drawing and journaling. But I'm going to call it a back and forth line or zigzag line. I'm going to zigzag over these contours. So if I have a place where roughly my rock is kind of coming down like this, here's this interior line. That little line, I'm going to follow kind of the if my line, if I sort of follow kind of bumps kind of back and forth over that, imagine if there was one side that was in shadow, what would that kind of the edge of that shadow line be? That's going to really help me give this a sense that this is not an edge like this, right? Where I've got a little hard dip straight edge, but instead, that edge is, there's places where it's the edge of that goes back and forth. I'm going to turn over to a try to draw on my screen here for a moment and just trace over on this rock a little bit of what I might be, how I might be following that. I think this might make this annotation. There we go. Draw. So let's look at this area right in here. Right. So if this little edge here kind of came down like this, let's go for a darker color. That's going to suggest a really sharp edge. And I'm going to clear that little drawing. On the other hand, if this little edge, were maybe to kind of follow along there and then back, and in here kind of zigzag down, and then maybe over there, like down there, then back here. You see how that line is suggesting that we're kind of wrapping around. So these things, these parts where it zigs in here and zags back out this way, these little kind of wedges in that help kind of round that edge there. And our brain will then sort of see that as in a way that's different than if you drew that with a sharp line. Again, a line that comes and goes is a broken line here and there is going to be useful. So that's how I am going to visualize some of these more interior lines, the hard place. So what do we do here? I'm going to come down this way and get to this big corner here. And just sort of suggest that there's a little edge like that. And then there's this part here can come down. It's hidden behind the plants and I don't exactly know what's going on there, and that's okay. Over here, what are we going to do? We're going to come down like this and we're going to disappear behind the plants. Over here in this corner, just sort of rounded that little corner off. Under here on this bottom part, I might use a heavier line, then that just sort of suggests that, oh, this is on the ground, it's heavy. And then we'll kind of come back in here and give that a little bit of weight. And then there's a slope up there. There is this cool feature here. Oh, let's actually first do this part here. So I'm just gonna, this line wants to kind of sometimes kind of, slop out onto this flat surface and sometimes onto that bottom, onto this surface here. I've got this big face here. There's that big chip off the old block in there. Maybe that's a big zigzag into this. I like that better than that. So I'm kind of drawing over a mistake. And maybe this is a slightly different surface. Notice that this crack kind of coming up in here, it's a little crack that we can see kind of, so I'm going to draw that as sort of a kind of coming and going crack. When it gets up here on this top surface, it's going back at a slightly different direction. So if there's a crack that goes across your rock, you're going to see that go different directions on different surfaces. This one is in perhaps photograph taken in overcast neutral lighting. And so it's hard to sort of, the shadows don't really give you that much of a sense of dimensions on it. Let's see here. So the shadows don't really help me that much. Shadows are very helpful though on rocks in showing the form of the rock. So I'm going to just put in some shadows on this, imagining that if the light is coming from this top left-hand side, then this surface here is going to be in shadow. And I'm going to put this surface in shadow, that surface in shadow. This surface here, I'm going to have be in a deeper shadow, just to help us sort of see that dimension. So I'm just going to come in first with all of the surfaces that are going to be in tone. And then this is a Tombow brush pen that I'm using right now. This is my favorite. Well, this isn't the N95. This is the N75. So it's a medium gray one. I'm going to make this a little bit darker down in here by putting just another coat of the same brush here. This slope here, I'm going to make that a little bit darker. Maybe make this little curved in part a little bit darker here. There we go. And just add a few little kind of spots and a few little marks in here saying like, oh, look, this is rock. If I am drawing using a pencil for doing shading, or doing that with a pen instead of, say, a marker, I want to use these angles to suggest different planes in the rock. So let me show you how that would work. Notice here, this plane that is kind of tucked in at an angle like this. You see these lines going in this direction. So if this is roughly the same plane as that, what I might do is, if I carve those with lines going like that, and then this down here, lines like that, that helps us look at it and say like, oh, look, we're cruising in here and then we're dropping down like that. So we're coming in on a slope and then we're dropping down. What about over here? So that is going to be, it's going to be out at an angle like this. And that is different than these slopes that are coming down. Similarly, what is happening here, that this vertical cliff here, I want to show, if I do these lines, I'm going to do a few of these lines in here at an angle like this. And if I put these lines in like this, now notice how that part of the slope feels that it is at it's not a steep cliff. If, on the other hand, I make those kind of come down like this, then that feels like this is an up-down part. So I can carve different angles into this rock. If I want this part here to be kind of tucked back in, there I go. Now this part is sort of sticking out a little bit, and that part is tucking back in. So I can use the angle of these shading strokes to let me kind of make this corner right in here interesting, because there's these little kind of chipped crescents of rock where you're seeing part of the kind of lower surface of these things. I draw some lines across it like this, and it feels like, what are those? Are those stripes across it? If this is coming down though, and this is going back like this, and this is coming back like this, then you get a little bit of a sense of like, oh, these are changes in angles of this rock. Let's take a look at a different rock. We've got this rock here, and oh, this rock. I mean, that's such, look at that angle and that left. So here we really see these planes. Let's just take a few minutes and mess around with this rock. So initially, it's going to be an oval leaning to the left, kind of a divot out of the left side, bump on the right side. So I'm thinking initially about the overall shape of this. So it's kind of a rock that's sitting in there like that. And there is a straighter side, and there is kind of an angle over here, and then there's an angle kind of somewhere in here, and there's an angle that comes straight down, and then that curves around a lot of the bottom, and then it comes up, and then it goes out over like that, right? Maybe I want it to come further like that. Yeah, I think I do. Oh. Right, see, at the start, I can move my rock around a lot. Blocking in, I think I want a bigger toe. And come up here, yeah, and we can come over here. And then it's going to come like that. All right, so then there's off this corner down here, there's a big section here that really comes close. It comes far in, doesn't it? All right, so we're seeing a big part of this rock is this shape, and is a shape over here. Then I have a surface here. There's a chunk out of it. What's going on here? We are going up, we're going over, and then from there, maybe out here. So up in here, there's a whole surface plane. And that's going to include this. another little surface plane in there, and then there's another little plane in there. So I'm just thinking about like, where are the planes on this big rock? And I want to kind of draw lines around them, so they're now in plain view. Here's this little corner down here that got banged off. So I'm going to just draw a little triangle there and kind of cut that off. This is a nice little sharp corner there. There's some kind of weird thing happening here. So you see, I'm looking at what are the major surfaces pointing in different directions. This is a surface. This surface here is pointing out in this direction. This surface here is pointing out towards you. Right? Here's a surface that is pointing this way. And this surface here, it's pointing out, towards you. I really want to show that those are surface planes that are pointing in different directions on my final drawing. I'm going to have a lot of fun with those. I'm going to do this one not with these guys, but I'm really going to go nuts with just hatching with my little pen here. But first, let's just drop in some edges. I'm going to have this little edge that kind of, it's going to be, you know, a line that some places is going to be harder. Some places over here, I'm going to get softer. Well, if I kind of have lighter lines around the far side of that rock, it is going to, now on this edge that's a little bit closer to me, I'm going to have some little nooks and crannies in it. That little bit of detail, it also pulls the side of the rock towards me. And I can make some of that line a heavier line. All right, so here's this little chip off the old block. And what are we going to do? We're going to zig in here. We're going to come in here. We're going to come on up there. What about in here? This line's going to come in here. And then we're just going to give it a little bit of jiggle like that so that it feels like it's kind of here wrapping around an edge. But right in here, really, you see that there's more jiggly in this part and not so much here, because this end is pretty crisp. This surface right here, though, is really, it's a broad edge. This edge in here and this one in here, I'm going to lightly suggest those. And this one coming down the middle here, it's going to come that's kind of an in-your-face crack. I'm going to make something up and add it to this rock for just a moment here, just to sort of show you if there was a major crack going across this rock, or if there was a vein of another material going through this rock. What would happen with that? Let's say there was a vein of material that was coming through this, you know, like maybe a quartz intrusion or something like that. What you're going to see is on a flat surface, on a flat face, that intrusion is going to make a straight line across that face. But where you see it then on a different face, it's going to be going at a different angle. Oh, I need some Play-Doh. Hold on just a second. One moment. So one way of visualizing this is some dough that I made. And imagine that this is a rock. Let me give it some flat planes. There's a flat plane here, a flat plane here, right? So here's this rock. And there is a vein that cuts across this rock right at this angle. So that I'm going to put it back together, but you're still going to be able to see where that vein cuts through, right? So you see that it's cutting through this rock on a straight plane. But now I turn this to the side here, and I want you to notice that we have one line going here in this direction. And when it gets to this plane here, look at this one coming up in this direction. So you're now seeing this surface here, where that flat plane cuts through the rock, where it cuts across a different plane, it will, from your vantage point, unless you're looking straight down in the axis of that plane, which we're not, you're going to see it change its angle. So from here, change angle, down the plane. So that means up here on this different plane, I am going to have this, it's going to change its angle. And this, I can make it up. I can just draw this any angle that I want on the real rock that I'm looking at. I want to look at which direction it goes. But so that's kind of just adding in a little bit of little intrusion of into this. This rock probably thinks the song is about it now. Now let's play with some contour lines, right? So if I'm a drop of water and I land here, take a look at the photograph. Which way am I rolling? I'm rolling down this way. So I'm just gonna, this surface here is gonna do that. What if I landed here? I'm gonna go like down this way. So you see how having these lines here at this angle and these lines here at this angle helps us see that this is a different facing plane than this one here. And what about this one here? I'm going to have a few sort of spaced lines like that. So it looks like up in here there's actually a vertical plane. There's something that is kind of dropping down here on my rock. And there's a surface that is coming out like that. And then a big broad surface coming down there. These ones here water is going to drain off that way. But out here on these, I'm not going to really add too much more shading to them because actually I will. I'm going to add in more shading. But I'm not going to put the shading over on these sides here because that's where my light is coming from. So this is a rock. It's out on the ground. I'm going to change pens. This is what my daughters now call the Mark pen because we got our first ones from Mark Simmons. It's a zebra pen. It allows me to make really kind of fine lines, and also where I press more forcefully, I can get these kind of really kind of darker punched in lines. And this gives me a little bit more line variation. So if I'm doing this all with these hatching marks, yeah, following the planes really helps. Then you can see like, oh, this toe is kind of sticking out towards me, and like this business here is coming down. This one is at a different angle. I'm now just going to, I can leave it like this, or I can also put in a little bit of marker here. Cast shadow underneath this. If you put a little bit of cast shadow underneath your rock and really kind of punch in a little bit of the edge, especially right up against the rock, make that even darker, your rock will sit on the ground a lot better. This rock doesn't have major cracks or fissures that are going through it, but if they did, they would do the same thing that vein did. So imagine if there was a crack that was kind of coming up in here, in this direction, maybe it would across this surface change angle in there. Or another crack that might be coming in here. When it hits this, it's going to come down like that, and then maybe like that. Oh, like that. Oh, yeah. So I want to think of like, what will those cracks, just like this, they're going to change their direction. Maybe make that a bigger crack. Oh, okay, this rock is starting to fall apart. Oh yeah, now it's really falling apart. Oh, what here? Nugget out of there. Then a few little, especially right along the line, right when we talk about the moon, we'll be talking more about how the shadows, little details in the shadows show up best right at the edges of the shadows. So in some of those areas, I'm just going to put in a few close to where the shadow edge is. A few little details. And then I stop. If I want this to have a sense of scale, all I have to do is put some plants that are next to it, and you have a general sense of kind of the size of this now because of the the plants that are next to it. And there is a drawing of a rock. So we did the rock, we did the hard place. I want you folks just to think about the strategies of thinking about the direction that you make your little hatching lines. You know, if you are doing kind of shading with a graphite pencil, then what I suggest you do is when you're on one of those surfaces, turn the angle of your little shading lines. You know how sometimes just there's like a little hint of like, oh, that was made by little multiple pencil lines. If that subtly shows through, it looks really cool. But change the angle of those shading strokes as you are carving those different planes. And I hope that was useful. So let's now take a look at, we're going to jump over to the community here. First wanted to check in with Sherry, if you feel comfortable commenting on this. Would love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to make it possible for you to unmute yourself in just a moment. Let's see here. You can now unmute yourself. So let's start with Sherry, the person who sent us the photographs. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for inspiring Rock Day. I'm going to add you in here. Hey there.
Thank you, Jack, so much. This is just one of the rocks outside my sliding glass door in our great room, and I look at it, I don't know, 1,000 times a day, and I'm new at this, so I have attempted to draw this, and I can't get past the planes of it all, and so I've tried. I keep drawing these lines, and it wasn't working, so that's why I reached out to you. I live in the desert, so we have all kinds of amazing plants and rocks and things to draw from. So this was really helpful. I think it changed my brain to see it multidimensional, and yet the detail you used really did give it the definition. I think I'm learning there's a difference between dimension and definition. You know, there's something that's unique to each one. So thank you very, very much. It was very helpful. I'll never look at this rock the same again.
Great. Yeah, it's fun to there's the rock from the class. I know you, little friend. The one that I love, that one with those two big faces in it.
I mean, I'm watching you and I'm watching the rock and I'm like, wow. And the way it comes together when you do things and the detail and the way you see what needs to happen, Jack. I mean, it's such a gift. It's really remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your support, and thank you for sending us the rock pictures. I think a bunch of people really got to rock out with this, all because of you. So Sherry,
thank you.
Let's jump over to the Schoen family and see what is happening in their journals and what's rocking their world. Hey there,
everybody.
Look, I think we've got a little bit
today, my daughter made with my kids, but I get to have a lot of 4 little distractions. So.
Oh, wait, hold on one moment. I'm having.
Can you hear us? We might not have a good connection today.
We've got a little bit of some technical difficulties here.
Are you hearing us okay?
One moment. I have also lost you on my screen.
We don't have a good connection. Hold on.
Let's see. And why can't I find you on my screen to, I want to spotlight you again. Oh, could you just use the raise hand function again? Oh, there we are. Yeah, we have no visual, that's why. Okay. So if it's possible
I
to,
think there, oh, it might be our internet's really unstable today, so I think it's probably on our end.
well, we would love to
So we
catch
can
up.
try again another time.
Please do. Really would love to check in and find out and see what you're up to. And we'll do that next time.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, but I hope you enjoyed today's class. All right, let's, does somebody else have something? Heidi, hi there. So you've got some, you've been rocking out, and let's take a look at your journal. You are currently muted. You are currently muted. Still muted.
Okay.
Now you're good.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Very good.
Okay, so this was so interesting. I was just, when this was starting, I was right there, and I just thought, oh yeah. But then when you started, then I just really like to do those little things, and it's very good, and it's I just get into it.
It is really fun. You know, when you kind of get into it like that. What's happening is your brain is getting into a little bit of a flow state, and you just kind of lose ourselves in this rock. Something that I really like what you did here is hitting those highlight surfaces with that light yellowish pencil.
I think it was over. Oh, this is funny. Where is it?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I always like to look at rocks in the where we are, and it's just so, I never thought of this, and so thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to steal one of your ideas. And I like the way that you use the, I like the way you use that colored pencil to further pop some highlights on that. So I'm just going to copy you, and just if light is coming from this direction, it's really hitting this surface full, this surface not as much, and then maybe this surface here gets a little bit of light, and put some
This is a good one over here.
highlights around the edges of my mind. I like the way you did that. I'm also going to throw a little bit of highlight into the vein.
Yeah. That's a lot of, this was, I just,
That's fun to do.
thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the little, thank you for that colored pencil inspiration there.
Yeah, and that was this was it was on the rock, the big rock.
Yeah. And also just color choice, because you chose for your dark a color that has a little hint of blue in it, and there's a little hint of yellow in your light. Those two play very, very nicely together. much more interesting choice than if you had chosen a white pencil and a gray pencil. So I like that little hint of blue in there, that little hint of yellow in that, kind of a warmth in the light and a coolness in the shadow. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you.
All right. I see my friend Jack is here today. Jack, it's really good to see you. How are you today? And would love to see what is going on in your journal.
Well, I was out one day in our backyard taking pictures. Taking pictures of the birds that were zipping around, and I saw a lot of the same bird, and I've been wondering what this bird is. It's close, but it doesn't really look like a juvenile eastern bluebird, and it has like blue wings and blue tail, but not really anything else. Blue.
Oh, what great studies. So very spotted chest. Blue in the wings and the tail, grayish back. I like your thought of the juvenile bluebird. I think that you have correctly identified it, even though the one in your bird book may not look exactly like that. Something that is interesting is that very often especially there's so many changes that birds go through as they're going out of their juvenile plumage and into their sort of first set of adult clothes. That gives us a lot of variation on how the birds look, but usually at best, they will only give you one picture of this is what the juvenile looks like. But there's a whole bunch of variation that happens there. I'm going to run over to my bookshelf here and pull a book off it that I think that you might find interesting. Hold on a second here. Where is This is an amazing book, Baby Birds. I'm going to join you in Spotlight here. So this is a really cool book by Julie Zukafus. So she is a naturalist. She is an illustrator and journaler. I think she's got some young bluebirds in here, but you'll just get a sense of how much change happens in the first the first few months of a bird's life. There are massive changes that are happening. And let me see. An index, my kingdom for an index. There's one. Let's go for bluebird. B, bluebird. Eastern. So 25. 20. Okay, so check this out. This is lovely. This is tracking the little birdies. They start as this little guy, and then they get a little bit of fuzz, and you can see the blood vessels, the heart beating inside them, and they get a little bit larger and a little bit more scraggly looking, and then pin feathers. Let's drop down on this a little bit more. Can I zoom? No, I can't. I'll do this though. Well, look at this. These birds are starting to get their little feathers in. And, some blue is coming in, right? Getting some blue. And then, look at this. More blue, more spotting on the back. And then they leave the nest and look at the changes continuing to happen. So, so this is day 25. This is day 32. Day 41 here. And then look at this. Look at these changes starting to come in on our little friends. So, you know, at best, most bird books will give you a picture of, you know, here is a juvenile bluebird. But there's a wonderful mentor of mine named Rich Stallcup, and he would always say that when the bird and the book disagree, believe the bird. When the bird and the book disagree, believe the bird. So this is, again, you know, she's tracking these little, I'm going to zoom back out here. So if anybody is interested in birds and their development, this book, Baby Birds, it is mind-blowing. And she does this for species after species after species after species. And look, here is the fecal sac. You can learn all about those things. Here's, you know, more feathers coming in. Look at those cool, these are life-size watercolors of these birds growing. So here you actually can see the actual size of her sketches. Are these looking a little bit more like your friend?
Yeah, I think one more page. Yeah, the one that's looking at you. Yeah, that one. That one looks kind of like this one.
Yes. Oh, it does. It does. It really does. That's really fun.
Yeah, and I had one other thing to share. So we have a bunch of monarch caterpillars starting from the eggs. They've all hatched, and we've been watching them go from the egg to the tiny caterpillar and then to a big fat caterpillar. They eat the milkweed in our enclosure, and then they hang upside down in the J position, and then they like burst out a little green, and then like the green like absorbs them, and that becomes the chrysalis, and then they go into the butterfly. So I made a little life cycle right here. So they start, the female butterfly lays an egg on the leaf there, and then it hatches into a small caterpillar, and the caterpillar eats and eats and eats for days, and then it hangs upside down on a leaf or the top of our enclosure and bursts out into a chrysalis. And I'm waiting for the chrysalis like when they first make their chrysalis, it's really light color, like that green right there. Yeah. And then the green just gets darker and darker and darker until it's almost clear. And last year I could actually see the butterfly inside the chrysalis, and I haven't done the butterfly yet. I'm still waiting for them to burst out of their chrysalis as a butterfly.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if that this one also goes through the stage where you can see through it. That'd be one other drawing to drop in there. That is really neat. I love your study, and that little moment that you captured where the caterpillar is kind of curled over on itself and hanging from the top of the cage or the plant is a really neat moment. That little posture as it's about to go into that chrysalis stage. Excellent observations. I am really, really delighted with that. And also your use of arrows allows us to kind of follow and visualize that life cycle through there. This is an excellent project for anybody out there who finds a little caterpillar. You'll either get a cool butterfly or a cool moth, and you can start to then connect these things up in your area. That's really fun. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'd love to see what happens when you get, if this gets to that sort of transparent stage, or also what the adult looks like. So we'd love to check in on that again. Jack, thanks so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. And one more thing, it's really weird. They have like 5 different stages of shedding. It's called an instar. And the first instar is when they come out of the egg. And then the second instar, you can tell by which instar it is because their antenna should, when they, I forget the right way to say it, but that for the first instar, the antenna should, if they folded it flat, it should barely reach the front of their face. The second instar, it would be twice as long as their face. The third, 3 times as long, and so on. And we have this black caterpillar. It's like, instead of the normal monarch colors, we know it's a monarch because at first it was the regular colors, but now it's all black. And my mom said that something went wrong when it did its second or third instar, and it turned black. And it's still a caterpillar, and I'm really excited to see what the butterfly of that caterpillar looks like if it makes it to the butterfly stage. And it's still eating. So
this one is actually staying in its caterpillar stage much longer than the others are?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it was small. Like, the normal caterpillars just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This one is slowly growing.
There is this is going to be really exciting. I'm going to suggest that you make some drawings of this. There is a possibility, and when this thing pupates, if it does, or even if it doesn't pupate, but it just gets still for a long time, get it in a special jar and wait and wait and wait. This caterpillar may be parasitized.
What does that mean?
So that means caterpillar, munch, 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 parasitic wasp, lands on the caterpillar, can lay an egg into the caterpillar, but if it and then the egg hatches inside there, and if that larval wasp ate the vital organs first, then the caterpillar would die. But the larval wasp eats non-vital organs for a while, and sometimes the adult is able to completely pupate. I found these moths, this moth caterpillar, and it went into a pupa form, and I was drawing the whole thing, and I got flies out of it. Flies came out of my moth pupa. It was a sphinx moth pupa, and I got flies out of it. So parasitic flies, parasitic wasps can lay eggs into these things, and that changes their metabolism. And sometimes what happens is it gets them not to pupate, instead just to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And so they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there is a developing larva inside of them, which is just crazy. Out in the desert area, I've been out in the deserts and found these hawk moth caterpillars that are just like sausages, these huge things. And those are ones that have been parasitized, but their little function to go let's go turn into a butterfly now, that's turned off. So they're just eating, making more caterpillar food for the wasp larvae growing inside them. So this, you may be on to I have no idea. It may just be that this is this is like a super melanistic caterpillar, but there's also the possibility here that you can hatch a parasitoid out of your caterpillar. Wouldn't that be?
That would be crazy. So what do you want me to do? Put it in a jar?
So where is it right now? Is it out on a bush?
We have this butterfly cage basically, but it's like a mesh thing. So it's like a big rectangle, and we have a big milkweed plant in there. So they're all eating the milkweed, and then they go to the ceiling of the enclosure and hang upside down and go into their chrysalis. And then we've released one butterfly, but it did it in the middle of the night, so I couldn't draw it when it was still like hanging upside down, letting the fluid go in its wings. So we had to let it go because it can only go without food for 24 hours. So we had to let it go. But so do you want me to like put it in a jar with milkweed, or?
No, I would just let it do its thing for a while.
Because
But
it can't get away right now. It
So-
can't get away.
could a small wasp get out through your mesh, or so? I mean, a wasp about that big.
No, it's like very small holes. Like
Great,
I'm-
then you're fine. But if it's a very large enclosure, it might be possible to miss the little wasp or the fly.
it's not huge, but I could like a small wasp I could probably find. It's not huge.
So I'm going to bring in Susan Beckart here. If you feel comfortable joining the conversation, Susan. She's got some thoughts about how to maybe to make a sort of special arrangement for this thing. So Susan, what does your friend do for their monarchs?
Yes, hi. So she's been raising a lot of monarchs the last couple of years, and she, like you do, she goes and she finds the eggs on milkweed in her garden, or she secretly plants milkweed like in random sort of waste spaces around the town. She scatters the seeds so as to make more homes for monarchs. But so what she'll do is she'll collect an egg, and once the caterpillar hatches out, she'll take a 2-liter soda bottle, cut the top off, the top that has the opening of the bottle. She cuts that off so it has a nice big opening, and you can turn that upside down, and that gives you kind of a vertical space that's a good size for one monarch at a time. And then what she'll do, and she's like worked at this whole system. She takes a soda can or seltzer can or any sort of a can that can easily fit in there, puts a nice fresh sprig of milkweed in there with water in the can so it can go in. And the opening of the soda can is small enough that there's very little chance of the caterpillar falling into the can, because that has been a concern occasionally with it falling into the water that the milkweed was kept in. So then she's got the caterpillar on the milkweed coming out of the can, all of that in her upside down soda bottle, and then she can lift the bottle off if she needs to check the caterpillar or miss it or anything like that. And that way she keeps one caterpillar per bottle, and so if anything goes wrong with one caterpillar, I would be as delighted as you would if it turns out that one of these is parasitized. That'd be pretty amazing. But she doesn't necessarily want to then allow them to spread to all the other caterpillars that she's raising at the same time, because she would like to promote the growth of monarchs. So that helps to prevent having the whatever parasites or fungus or anything else from spreading from one caterpillar to the next. So just a suggestion. I don't know if that would be good. It seems to work well for black swallowtails too. She raises.
Oh, cool. So this might be
too big. She can easily fit in that sort of arrangement. And then the caterpillar will usually climb up the side of the bottle and end up creating its chrysalis. The sort of the bumpy bottom of the bottle, but it's upside down, so it's on the top, and it usually creates chrysalis there. Although she has occasionally had escapees who have crawled along the table to the wall, up the curtain, and have formed a little chrysalis up there at the very top of the curtain. So it's been very interesting.
Oh, that's really cool. So you're saying that using this technique, you could make a very low cost chamber for that one, and then be able to track that one easily, and then you can see who you get in it. But if you do a parasitoid, I would still release it outdoors, because it's just so cool, and it's like it's got its own whole like parasitoid thing going on, and doesn't make it a bad guy. It just makes it cool. Susan, thank you so much for that explanation and those ideas.
I'm super excited to hear
some
about
ideas for you, Jack.
the results.
Great. Yeah, we really look forward to seeing what happens on this mystery. It's neat. You start looking at anything And you're going to find pretty quickly that there are mysteries, you know, we're constantly learning things. You may be onto a new phenomenon that a scientist has not observed yet. This is great. So I would track that bad boy and see what's happening. If it is not parasitized, but it's just this black caterpillar, that's also really, really interesting.
I'll definitely be doing some nature journaling of this.
Awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Look forward to checking in with that. Thanks so much for sharing that. And also thank you for the baby bird look.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm going to be joined now by Yvette, the mad botanist. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And what's happening in your journal?
So speaking of rocks, I had a kind of a fun mystery yesterday with rocks on a big scale. I like, whenever I go to the beach, I like to look and see kind of a little sample of the sand. So that way I figure later on when I eventually learn how to use a microscope properly, I can look and try to see all of the different elements that make it up. But I was wondering because within the sand here, there were all of these different colors. There was this kind of darker golden color, and then there was this lighter color. And I was wondering if those were different elements within these sides of this cliff. And just on like, from random good luck, Carolyn decided to show us something that was halfway across the beach, and we ran after her. And she was climbing this rock, and I noticed that there was a wall crumbling, and the wall crumbling was filled with shells. And it was not releasing sand in the normal way. It was releasing this powdery, very fine sand. So you can see how different that looks.
Oh, yeah.
So
there are real samples of the sand glued onto your journal.
Yep. I figured that way it's only a pinch. It's a lot less than you would even get emptying out your shoes. And that way I'm not like taking huge amounts with me. So this is rough to the touch, but this here, with the exception of the shells inside of it, this here feels like ashes. It's so fine. So I was wondering about that, about the shells. And then I was wondering what that meant in terms of, I'm sure that there's a term and I keep forgetting it. It's either like, I think it's superposition or striation, because we're taught in geology that with the layering, the way that it goes is that the oldest layers are on the bottom. And this was kind of close to the bottom. So I have so many questions now, like the other pockets that are that color, are there more shells hidden in them or not? What's the rate of erosion? You know, is that the oldest layer, or is there something else going on? Would these qualify as being sedimentary or metamorphic, or somehow both at different times in the geological scale? What kind of shells? I don't know, I have questions. And then I'm also wondering, you know, does that get carried away first? And is it going to be with the wind, or is it going to be with the water? And then also, which way is the literal drift going? Because I remember that, I think it's that you get the cold water at certain times of the year coming down from Alaska. So that would say that it goes north to south, but I'm wondering if it's always that way. I know that now is about time for the upwelling. And so I'm wondering, where does this material all go? Like, is it that we're feeding Ocean Beach, or is Ocean Beach feeding us? I don't know, I have a bazillion questions. So yay for rocks. I tried to draw what I was seeing here.
A little inset there.
And I noticed that up at the top, I could clearly see the layers going side to side. But then as I got lower, it became more about seeing the gullies. So yeah, I have questions.
Oh, that is really fun. That is really, really fun.
Yeah.
And I also love that how you collaged in some of those sand elements, the real found items. Do you carry a little glue stick with you?
Glue stick would probably be even better. I just carry this.
Okay, yeah.
And I kind of push it down on the page, make a circle, and sometimes I'll even press the sand or the soil into it so that it sticks better.
That's a great idea. Probably have better sticking than you would with a glue stick.
Yeah, because it almost sometimes gives it a three-dimensional feeling to it. So it makes the journal tactile too, which is kind of fun.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh,
And then,
yeah.
And then today, just the talk about the rocks was making me think. There was a while ago, because I have a favorite rock too, like so many of us do, and I'd spent like a long time in a lot of different attempts, like trying to. Oh, this feels so nice. Does anybody else have a rock that feels like this really, really cool that you like to put your face to when it's a hot day? I just remembered, like, I got to draw mine a while ago, which was really fun.
That
And
rock reminds me of a heart.
it kind of does look like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We'd been doing this zoom in, zoom out thing with it. And it's funny, like once you've done an official zoom in, zoom out, you always remember the part of the rock. Because I remember starting very specifically at this part of the rock for the zoom in, zoom out. So I recommend everybody get to be friends with a rock, because then you just become special to you. And I still don't know what kind of rock this is, but yeah. Okay, anyways, sorry, I'm gonna go hug my rock off screen now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. We're actually going to have a whole workshop on drawing rocks coming up. So that's on the schedule. So look for that. Somebody mentioned about, all right, now I want to draw pebbles. I want to draw these little pebbles. We'll also draw pebbles in that workshop. There will be pebbles. We're also going to geek out with more visualization of geographic formations, which will include some box diagrams and then projections of material into the earth from what we see on the surface. That will be fun. But yes, more rocks to come. So everybody make friends with rocks. You might start just kind of looking around and trying to find what are some kind of cool rocks near you, and get your start collect some interesting found object rocks. And you can go to rock shops. You can kind of look in beds of gravel and those sorts of things. But I think the most interesting things are when you actually find rocks that are where you can sort of see, like, that rock fell out of that little rock formation right there, where there's a relationship with a specific place in a specific formation. A rock out of context is a rock. A rock where you still know its context has so much more of a story to tell. So see if you can find some rocks with stories near you. Let's jump over to our friend Ray Bonto in London. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. So I was just drawing these rocks.
Oh, yes. So great. Sort of start with a sort of a cube form, and then I like that that crack going across it. We're really kind of getting a sense that those cracks could three-dimensionally go through that rock.
Trying to draw fish and they always seem to go wrong somewhere.
Yeah. Well, fish. Were these ones from live or from photograph?
Photograph.
Yeah. The tropical fish have just so many crazy forms and shapes, where we all have this idea in our head of how a fish should look. But then we start looking at the actual fish out there, and it's amazing, just the diversity of forms. I have a video of a workshop that I did some time ago on fish, where I really kind of geek out on fish structure and function. Let me see if I can, so this might be a useful resource. I'm going to go to blog archives. So on my website, the easiest way to find old classes, you can use the search function or the blog archives. You go past the birds, you go past the mammals, reptiles, and fish. How to draw tropical fish with colored pencil, vegetables, whale illustration basics, waves. I think it's either How to Draw Fish Part 1. How to draw fish. How to draw foreshortened fish. I think that this one here, How to Draw Fish Part 2. I'm not seeing Part 1 out there. This one may be let me see if this I'm just gonna do quick look here. No, this one isn't it. This one isn't it. In the signs here, that one is not it. Fish Anatomy for Artists. That must be it. Oh no, How to Draw Fish 1. That's it. That's it. No, not you. Not you. So this is kind of a if you want sort of stills of this workshop, go into number 1 here. And the way that this works is this is a little workshop. You can see the video of it, but these are stills from the video with a little bit of description with those. And I then talk about how that basic fish plan is modified and what are different tail types. And by the end of the class, oh, there's a shark. We're looking at the different sorts of fins, how those kind of a big picture of what are the variations that you see in different sorts of critters. So this is kind of a useful overview of that fish anatomy, and the workshop that goes along with that one is How to Draw Fish 1 video workshop. Here it comes. And this one also has some sketch notes by Mark Simmons in it. So you can check out the Mark Simmons sketch notes down here. But this workshop, it takes you through, I'm looking at all sorts of different parts of fish and fish eyes, and
but isn't going to be making any long distance swims in the water. Might have a tail arrangement like.
So then sort of an explanation of those sort of body types. And then I put those ideas together
this fish
in a kind of step-by-step of how I kind of go about blocking in one of those fish. What are sort of proportions?
Can I borrow yours?
And we kind of do that there. If you want to see that butterfly fish step by step, black and white butterfly fish, that's also in here. So there's a trout drawing that I do step by step, and a butterfly fish step by step that I do in that class, in that fish video 1. And you can, waiting for the slow load. Here it comes, and maybe we're not going to wait for the slow load. We'll give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 up. I think we're gonna have to go look at it on your own when you've got a faster internet connection than I do. So again, when you get to these pages and it looks like something like this. So what's going on here on these pages is this is a step-by-step tutorial. If you click on the first image and then you go to the right, the little right arrow, the text at the bottom changes. And you can see how it builds up. Why is it? Yeah, for some reason, the text in here is getting trimmed. I would hit this I for information thing, and you can see the full description, which gets, for some reason, gets trimmed in that. All right, so so I'm talking about kind of how to block in these sorts of things. Then we get into so those are some resources online that I'm going to stop and share. I think that some of those might be useful to you.
Thank you. Yeah, there are some really weird fish. Here's an attempt for a common stargazer.
Oh, we're getting a little bit of glare on the screen. Oh, neat. Look at that eye up there on top. What is this thing's feeding habit?
Yeah, I didn't check that, but
Oh, wow. That's a neat looking fish. I like your line variation. Really, really like your line variation. That's cool.
thank you.
Great. Yeah, see, take a look at some of those fish drawing resources. If they're useful to you and they answer the questions, let me know. If not, let me know. And we can do some follow-up on that and see if there's anything else that we want to add in terms of fish drawing strategies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, Jack.
Let me see here. I'm now going back to my gallery view. Does anybody else have something that they would like to share with the crew? If not, in just a moment, I will be turning off the recording. Before I let you, I do want to remind folks that these workshops are supported by donations from viewers like you. If it's possible to do so, it makes a huge difference to me and my family. If that doesn't work for you at this time because of finances or any other reason, another kind of wonderful way to pay it forward is just with an act of kindness or stewardship in your area. Just do something good that you otherwise might. I know you're already doing a lot of good things, but this is a bonus one that you might not have done without this little prompt of an act of kindness or stewardship. And I want to, and that makes it a huge difference. Those little acts. You never know how that's going to affect somebody else and their world, or affect the place that you visit. So until we meet again, dear friends, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Let's take care of this amazing planet that we're on together. We can use our nature journals to run out there and celebrate it. Now we can celebrate the rocks. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that today's workshop was useful to you to those ends. And thank you all so much for being here.